Iran's attack has created new opportunities for cooperation in the Middle East. We are closely assessing the situation. We remain at our highest level of readiness. Iran will face the consequences for its actions. We will choose our response accordingly.
I've seen reporting that the Iranians meant to fail, that this spectacular and embarrassing failure was all by design. I've also seen Iran say that they provided early warning to help Israel prepare its defenses and limit any potential damage. All of this is categorically false. To coin the phrase from the president, or steal a phrase from the president, it's malarkey. This attack failed because it was defeated by Israel, by the United States, and by a coalition of other partners committed to Israel's defense. So let's be straight. Given the scale of this attack, Iran's intent was clearly to cause significant destruction and casualties.
Iran's military strike on Israel, 300 plus drones and missiles launched by Iran, 99% thwarted by Israel's air defences, of course with the help of the US and allies. It's prompted justifiable fears that the Middle East is on the brink of all-out war as the Gaza conflict continues. For more on this, I'm joined by Director of Strategic Analysis Australia, former Deputy Secretary for Strategy in our Defence Department, Peter Jennings. Well, Peter, thank you for your time. We know Israel's at war with Hamas in Gaza in the south. It's fending off daily attacks from Hezbollah in the north. Now, Iran. This has got to be the darkest couple of days for Israel in its history. How likely is conflict with Iran?
I think direct conflict with Iran is not highly likely, Peter. I think the next thing we might see is a large-scale Israeli campaign in the north of Israel going into southern Lebanon to attack Hezbollah. And the main reason for that is that Israel is justifiably fearful of Hezbollah being able to do on a much larger scale what Hamas did down in the south in Gaza on October 7 by coming across the fence to attack Israelis. If Hezbollah attempts to do that in the north of the country, that's a large populated area. It really does present an existential threat to the future security of Israel. And I think even as we speak, Israel is taking steps to at least give themselves the ability to launch a significant military campaign into southern Lebanon. That's what I would expect to see next.
People were quick around the world to condemn Iran, but basically almost sit on Israel in terms of any retaliatory response. Our PM, condemned the Iranian attack, but refused to say whether he stood with Israel on it or not. President Biden said, yes, there's solidarity for Israel, but he didn't want a response from Israel back to Iran. Now, we can understand why. No one wants a third world war. But Israel doesn't seem to get the leeway to retaliate that other nations do when they are attacked.
There's an unreality in how I think both Biden in recent weeks and the Albanese government have been talking about Israel. There's this sort of fantasy world that ceasefires must happen straight away. They say there could be no future for Hamas in Gaza. But the only way Hamas is not going to have a future in Gaza is if the Israeli Defense Force defeats them in battle. Hamas is not going to give up its military capabilities, and nor is Hezbollah in Lebanon. So it's all very well for left-centre governments to sort of talk about the importance of peace and the value of restraint, but they really need to focus on the reality of what's going on in the Middle East, and that is Israel is fighting for its life. And it will continue to do so, whether Australian governments like that or not. Israel is going to force military solutions because they have no other choice, and because Iran will keep pushing Hamas and Hezbollah to do their dirty work for them in attacking Israel.
Talk to me about drones. I said a little earlier on, it is absolutely crackers that the world is going down the path of drones. We're making drones in Australia for Ukraine. They're not in our forward plan. We're talking about kit and capability coming in 2030, 2040. Well, the threats are really live, and now we can see how pivotal drones were over the weekend. We see it almost daily in Ukraine. I know you have been speaking out on this for some time, but surely we must change our strategy here in Australia.
We desperately have to, Peter, and there are two parts about this. First, it is pointless, as you say, just focusing on what the perfectly designed Australian Defence Force is going to look like in the mid-2030s. It's pointless to focus on that when the real concern is the risk of conflict growing in the mid-2020s, just in the next few years. And yet that seems to be where our defence organisations' focus is, and what the Albanese government is most comfortable to talk about. Second thing is we are the only advanced military in the world which does not have an armed drone as part of our existing force structure. We've used drones for reconnaissance purposes, for a range of other tasks, but not for actually carrying weapons. And yet what we see in Israel and the current war there, what we see in Ukraine over the last couple of years, is that drones are changing the nature of air warfare. They're changing the nature of the battlefield and how to control it. And we are talking in theoretical terms about maybe in half a decade's time. That's not good enough. There needs to be some urgent attention paid to this issue, given the threat which Australia currently faces in the region.